Society Matters.
My name is Arnie Herz, and welcome to Habits of a Whole Heart, a podcast episode. We are now entering into episodes number 12. Today, I'm very happy to have as a special guest Peter Samuelson, who is a well-known producer and just recently came out with a book called Finding Happy. And I met Peter a couple months ago in connection with another project, and I was immediately moved by his message and his dedication to really trying to make this world a better place. Peter is a filmmaker, a social entrepreneur, and welcome, Peter, who's joining us today on Zoom. So thank you very much for being with us. I know it's bright and early in LA.
It is, but I have a large cup of coffee, so I'm good. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. So, Peter, your book, Finding Happy, as you know, this podcast is titled Habits of a Whole Heart. And Habits of a Whole Heart is about creating a life of fullness, of wholeness, and it's very connected to happiness. And I'm just curious if you could give our listeners and our viewers a little bit of an overview about your book. What is Finding Happy about, and what was your inspiration for writing it?
So, one of my 7 nonprofits, God help me, number 3 actually, is called First Star, FIRST-STAR, firststar.org. And what we do is we house, educate, and encourage high school-aged kids in foster care for a 4-year period, grades 9 through 12, with the goal of getting as high a proportion of them as possible into college, which would be a very good thing for them because they need it more than anybody else. And we do that in partnership with great big universities. We have 12 of these academies across the United States, and we have another 3 in the United Kingdom, so 15. One of the things that has privileged me to be able to do is really a huge amount of mentoring. 1-on-1, 1-on-3, 1-on-25. I've hot and cold running mentoring over the last 20, 25 years. And I've also, in parallel to that, as a film producer, I do a lot of mentoring of people in film schools who are frightened because they're about to graduate and they have no idea how they're going to get a job. So through all of that mentoring, I realized there are about 24 topics that always seem to come up. You know, I'm being bullied. How do I get a job? My parents don't understand me. I'm sad, and so on and so forth. And so I wrote them down. And I thought, you know what? It looks awfully like the table of contents for a self-help book. So if you want to get anything done, you have to have a bit of self-discipline. So I started getting up very early in the morning, 5 a.m., and writing for 1 hour. And 6 months later, I had a book using as the chapter headings those topics which I know are mostly those that come up from teenagers, Gen Z, young adult. I would say the demographic of the book is age 15 to 30. So that's what it is. It's called Finding Happy because in the end, I think if you can find your happy, probably that makes a good life. But where it gets tricky is working out what will make you happy because it's not, you know, a tub of chocolate ice cream, a spoon, and no one to bother you, and something interesting on the screen. Long-term happiness, I think, comes from service. It comes from what, as Jews, we would call the neshama. It comes from putting yourself out to help other people, either institutionally or one-on-one, And I think as you do that, and as they then, because you help them, go on and help other people, you're putting ripples across the pond. And I think not only do you make joy in the moment by doing that, you have all sorts of other advantages, and also it is your legacy. And the great Rabbi Maimonides, as a kid growing up, I had grandparents who used to say, "Oh, he has the neshama. She has the neshama," and I never thought to ask, "What is it?" And of course, when you actually go and study it, what he said is there are 3 layers of the soul, and the top one, which not everyone has, it's a little bit rare. You don't own it. It's kind of like a membership society of everyone who feels a compulsion to channel their empathy for humanity into actually getting off their derriere and doing something to help other people. And what he says, which really resonated for me, he says, when 2 people who have the neshama meet for the very first time, they feel as though they have known each other 1,000 years, and they say, Hineni, here I am, what shall we do? And it was a big revelation for me, sort of made the hairs stand up on the back of my neck, because I thought, yeah, not by no means everyone I know, but there is this, there are these people who are my dear friends, and some of them, not even all of them, absolutely, if they said to me, I have something important coming up in Tokyo, I know it's short notice, but could you be there next week? I would move heaven and earth because of the person asking me, because they share this neshama thing with me. And I know that if I said to them, I got to be in London next week, can you come with? They would move heaven and earth and try and be there.
So Peter, that is really, really beautiful. And you answered my question that I was going to pose to you. So you already had anticipated that question of that. We live in a world where people always are focused on what the gain is that they get. Like people ask me, why do you spend time and energy doing this podcast? What can you get out of it? What's the value for you? You're taken away from your work. It's taken away from your family. It's not profitable. Like what is it that drives you? And I'm assuming that your book and a lot of your not-for-profit ventures did not have a financial benefit to you. If anything, it cost you time and money, and yet here you are feeling connected with it. So what is it that someone who is on the fence about trying to get involved, what is it you might want to tell them to inspire someone to contribute more meaningfully to someone else's life or to society at large?
So what I'm dealing with in First Star, and I go all around the country meeting with the cohorts of First Star scholars who are all high school kids, they're all teenagers. When I'm doing either the teaching or the mentoring, there's really only 2 subjects that I can teach in a classroom. One is videography, because as a film producer, if I can't teach that, then I don't know anything. But the other one, which I invented, is a 2-part class, 90 minutes times 2. It's called Random Acts of Kindness and Pay It Forward. So in the first class, I say, okay, here's a question for you. You're walking along the sidewalk, and there is an old lady lying face down, fast asleep, in rags, clearly homeless, in front of you. You have 3 choices. Tell me which you choose and why. A, you could stop and put $1 or 2 under her arm. Don't wake her up. Or B, you could wake her up and give her the money. Or C, you could look the other way, walk straight on by, don't pay it or her any attention. So it leads to a whole conversation about really the golden rule. There are roughly 170 religions in the world. In the scriptures of every single one of them, there is a version of the golden rule, this idea of social justice, of balance, and it is what we channel our empathy. Not everyone has empathy. There are some true, I mean, I can tell you in the entertainment industry, there are some tremendously awful people that one has to occasionally work with. But most people do feel a tug. Me, I came out of a restaurant and I met an old lady in the street, and I struck up a conversation with her, and I said, how do you get money and where do you sleep? And when I asked her, where do you sleep? She said, I'll show you. And she took me on the sort of wasteland next to the interstate freeway, the 405 here. And behind the bushes, there was a gigantic cardboard box, and it had been raining, and it was disgusting and smelly, and it had a piece of blue plastic over the top. And she said, this is where I sleep. This is where I sleep. And on the side of it, in big foot-high letters, it said Sub-Zero. And I thought, oh, that's the epiphany for me. I have the refrigerator, 2 miles from here in my home, and this old lady is sleeping in the cardboard box. And that is an example of this moment where you feel the urge to exert social justice and to make something lopsided maybe go a notch at least towards fair and level and humane. So we talk about the golden rule. Then I say to them, so if you were an atheist, does that mean you would never stop for the old lady? And they say, no. You could have empathy as an atheist. Doesn't have to come from God. And I say, who can tell me what is the second law of thermodynamics? And usually in a class of 30, there's maybe 3 kids who know, and they explain, and I correct them if they didn't get it quite right. But the second law says in any closed system, what is a closed system? The engine in your car, your family, a planet. In any closed system, if you don't apply external energy, you will have random chaos. If you just leave it alone, the engine, if you don't oil it, eventually it won't go round. If you don't nurture your family, you won't have one. If you don't take care of your planet, you'll have 160 degrees in the shade, and no height of wall will keep those migrants out, because they will be scurrying off, as has always been true in 100,000 years of history, to go find food, water, and somewhere that you can actually breathe, and take care of their families. So then I say to them, okay, we're at time. Come tomorrow, because something remarkable is going to happen. Oh yeah, what? Well, there is a man, my dear friend, who is in Dallas, and because of his generosity, each of you, and there are 30 kids in the class, each of you is going to receive $200. And they say, no kidding? We're going to get $200. And I say, yeah, but you don't get to keep it. You have to give it away. You're going to write a 300-word little mini essay, to whom or to what you wish it to go. And they write the most extraordinary things. My name is Jose. I am adding $10 of my own, because that makes 210, which is 3 times 70. And $70 is what it costs down at the humane shelter for them not to euthanize a dog. And I'm going to save 3 dogs. And the reason I'm going to do that is the last time I was down there, I looked into the eyes of a puppy that had been very badly beaten. And I saw my own eyes, because I was very badly beaten as well. So I'm saving 3 puppies. Love, Jose. That kind of thing. My mum is in prison for another 2 years, 3 months, 7 days. They always know exactly how much longer the person they love is going to be away from them. And I'm I know she hates the toiletries. She did some very bad things, including to me, but I know she hates the toiletries, so I'm going to put the money in her prison account so she can buy better shampoo.
So, Peter, let me ask you a different question. You have beautiful acts of kindness, and I like a lot of your content here. And a question, I noticed that a lot of what you've done here, when you were talking earlier about mentoring kids, right? So there's acts of kindness for people homeless. You seem to be particularly drawn to giving people the skills and abilities so that they can really grow and expand in their lives and have their own impact. It's one thing to, when you help someone who's homeless, it's beautiful. I'm not diminishing that at all. It's necessary. But when you're helping a child who would not otherwise have a chance to go to college, or you're helping someone who's come out of college trying to find their way in the work world, and you give them that little boost, not only are you making a ripple effect, but they will now make a tremendous ripple effect. And that force multiplier is very significant. And I want to bring back that I see that this is your book too. Your book is your ability, not just for one person or 10 people or 25 people, but your ability to reach millions and millions of young students to reach this. So my question for you is slightly different. It's more of a technical question. As you said, your audience is younger people, perhaps high school kids, college kids, young adults, people who are sort of lost in social media with no attention span. And you're a storyteller, you're a producer, a filmmaker. How do you engage kids to read your book? And do you have a video version of your book or other multimedia versions of your book so that you could get that message out that is so absolutely essential?
Well, first of all, if you want young adults to read your book, make the chapters short, and I have done that. I've also ended every chapter with points for reflection, things to think about, and with some tasks. The book is ranked at the moment, it only came out last month. For June, we're ranked number 1 on bulk books, which is where teachers and ministers and imams and rabbis and priests and so forth buy books in quantities above 25. So it appears that it is beginning to be used as part of teaching and mentoring and lifting up kids. The fascinating thing is the publisher, Simon & Schuster, Regalo, they say the buyership is different than the readership. The readership is absolutely Gen Z. But the buyership is older adults who care about the younger adults. So it's grandma and grandpa and mum and dad and Uncle Phil and Auntie Sheila, and it's the social worker, or it is the the lawyer that the foster kid has. It's any adult, and all adults are busy, who thinks that what is in the book will be a kind of schematic, a scaffold that might help whoever they care about that's younger to make a success of their life. The delicious thing, the publisher said I was raving mad to put my email address in the book. In the end, I compromised and I did put it in the book, but it's kind of a bit hidden near the end of the book. But I'm starting to get emails from the target audience, the readers, with all sorts of feedback, overwhelmingly good. And it's very gratifying. And I realize, it is ripples on the pond. What I say to the kids is, and it's true, I think, for anyone, think of your life as you're sitting cross-legged inside an envelope and it's dark, but you have a pencil. You can choose to just sit there and do nothing and stare at the darkness, or you can poke with the pencil. And it's absolutely true that if you poke with the pencil, every so often you'll go through the envelope and you'll say, whoops, I guess I will never be a concert pianist. But you have the great privilege as a young adult, especially if you've gone on to college, that for those 4 glorious years, you have a structure, you have a roof over your head, you have food on the table, and you can experiment. Okay, so I'm not going to be a pianist. Maybe I could be an engineer. What about an architect? I wonder if I could be a professional whatever. So I think experimentation in order to find a vocation and not just a McJob is very important. Especially in film schools, it's unbelievable how many young adults there are whose ambition is to be a famous actor, to be a star, to be a famous director. And of course, they're led on by the nose, and so are their parents who plonk all the money into the film schools, by the film schools that sort of give them a glossy brochure. If you pay us all this money, your kid will be a professional filmmaker. The odds against that are very long. The level of competition to be a famous actor is staggeringly against you. But I never, ever say, don't do it. What I say is, if your passion is acting, absolutely study acting. There are many ways. You must have a plan B, because the odds are against you, which doesn't mean don't do it. It means work out how you can do something that you don't hate and put food on the table and feed your kids and, run a household. And you have to have a plan B. And you can do the plan B if necessary, because what you don't know is in acting, it might take you much longer to find your groove. Furthermore, there are ways that you can act where no one will say no to you. For example, amateur theatricals, you can act every weekend in your town, and you can play Macbeth if that's what you want to do. And you don't have to do it as a film star. So it's a question of balance. It's encouraging experimentation. There's also quite a lot about being organized.
I would just say this, Peter, we have only a couple minutes left, so I want to ask you a couple more questions and a quick question and answers here. So one observation is when someone says they want to be a famous actor or actress, it's feeding their ego as opposed to feeding their soul, right? So it's what you're really getting at. Don't just go for the surface. Like, people want to be famous this or famous that or rich or that. They're looking for outcome as opposed to process. And I think a lot of what you're advising people is to be dedicated to something because you love doing it, not because you love the result. So with respect to, and again, we only have a minute, so it's quick question and answer. At a time where people feel so hopeless, where there's so much divisiveness within our political systems, when there's so much pressure within social media for kids, what few words of wisdom do you have for them on managing all of that?
Go help someone else through either an organized charity, go volunteer, or just go and help someone.
And why helping someone else? How's that going to help them?
First of all, it gives you agency. Most young people are insecure, but in helping others, you have agency and power. You are the one helping. And I believe there is enormous joy, also great advantage. You have a good idea as a fledgling volunteer in a charity. You'll be the vice president in charge of implementation in about 10 minutes. You will meet people through the charity. How are you going to find someone? A big question for young people. How do I find someone who will love me and who I can love? Well, not by flipping left and right on an app or meeting them in some bar. Go volunteer. Look to your left, look to your right. Who are these people? They believe in the cause that you believe in. Get friendly with them.
So, Peter, in my book, one of the key habits is that we all go around asking, what do I need? But that fulfills our needs, but doesn't give us the deep sense of satisfaction. We ask the question, where am I needed? And we fill that need of where we're needed, focusing on others. It brings a tremendous amount of wholeness and joy. And that's what you're recommending to people, to figure out somebody else. What does somebody else need? And when you serve someone else's need, it feeds that deeper neshama that you were talking about so beautifully earlier on. And so I can't wait to read this book. I want to get this book for my kids as well. And a real yasher koach to you for taking the time and the energy to put pen to paper and to really make a contribution to society in so many ways, and particularly most recently with this book. So again, it's Peter Samuelson's book, Finding Happy. And Peter, thank you so much for joining me on this episode of Habits of a Whole Heart. And I look forward to continuing to develop and advance our friendship. And for those of you, please tune in to HMTV, where you can access this either in the format of a video on YouTube or through all the podcast outlets, Spotify, Apple, and so on and so forth. So Peter, thank you for joining us, and everyone, have a great day.